Hey everybody, Thomas Morgan here with 1031navigator.com. This episode is a mini-sode. It is an excerpt pulled from our recent conversation with Aaron Crowley from Asset Preservation Inc. Asset Preservation is one of the largest qualified intermediaries in the country. This episode explores a specific listener 1031 question. And remember, if you're looking to move from a management-intensive property or a low or no income property into a secure, long-term net lease property that provides peace of mind, then go to 1031navigator.com/free, and I'd be happy to provide a free 1031 replacement property consultation. I only do a couple of these a month, and right now I only have one left. You can go to 1031navigator.com/free. Enjoy the show. It goes to the question, can I 1031 exchange my primary residence? Or the other question is, can I 1031 exchange my residential property? And those are two different things. Correct. Based on use. Primary, no.
So when you say investment property, it is for investment property only. Primary homes have no place in a 1031 exchange. However, could you go from a primary home, rent it for the 2-year safe harbor, do an exchange, buy a property, rent it for the 2-year safe harbor, move into it, make it a residential? Yes. So, and there are tax benefits for doing that. You don't necessarily have to die to avoid your taxes with a step up in basis. You could actually move into it. Then we go into the 121, which is a primary home exclusion. That starts. But
generally the answer for 1031 exchange for primary residence is no. But there are ways to do it if you structure it properly.
Over time, if you're living in it now, and it's not going to be, you right. you must convert it to a rental property, then do the exchange. And
it's similar to like the homestead exemption on capital gains. Living in a property for 2 of the last 5 years.
Correct.
Yep.
That's the 120. So it's a great strategy to say, I'm going to rent this property. Here's where I want to live next. Here's where I want to be next. I want to retire. Buy the property, rent it, move into it. Now it's your primary. You either leave it to your heirs at a step up in basis, or after a certain number of years, and we don't have to go into but after certain guidelines, you can use that exclusion. Not for all of it, but to the point of your exclusion.
But as a separate question, can I 1031 exchange into a residential property? And the answer is yes, as long as you're using it or your intent is correct.
Could I buy a residential rental? Absolutely.
Right.
Could I buy a duplex and live in half? Absolutely. But the part that's your half is no part of the exchange. So primary, if you're living in it, has nothing to do with the exchange. If you're going to rent it, it does. Now we could go into all sorts of rabbit holes like split treatment, because you have a lot of ranches up here. If I have a homestead on a ranch and I'm running cattle, I can use both. I can use my primary home on the house and the acreage that would be associated, and I can carve out on paper the remaining amount of it, and I can exchange that.
So that's both. Probably a good example for like your class this morning. If someone bought a big house that had a smaller house, and they said, look, we want to come stay in the smaller house and visit our kids, but we're going to rent the big house out most of the year, then you could, what was the terminology you used?
We call it split treatment. You use 121 and you use 1031. So.
And that would be a way for someone to 1031 and still be able to use part of the property.
Right. Well, there is a rule, since this is vacation home world up here. If somebody called and said, Aaron, can I exchange my vacation home? I would say, I don't know. Is it a second home where you only use family and friends and you guys go up and you never rent it? Then no, it's a second home, doesn't qualify. Is it an investment property that just happens to be in a beautiful resort area? Then yes. So a vacation home means nothing. I have to know what it is. So can your vacation home be an investment property? Absolutely. So the IRS gives us guidelines, and they say, hey, as long as you rent it for at least 2 weeks a year and you use it personally less than 2 weeks a year, and you've done that for the last 2 years before you exchanged it, we're going to call that an investment property. Now, when you exchange into another beautiful property up in the Aspen area, you're going to do the same. The first 2 years, you're going to use it for at least 2 weeks a year, rent it for at least 2 weeks a year, use it for less than 2 weeks a year, and we'll call it an investment property. After those 2 years are up, move in, never rent it, do whatever you want. But that's 2 years on both sides.
And we could basically do a whole episode
Yes.
on primary residences and you said split treatment.
We could,
in a way.
yeah, but primary, we just take off the table on investment, because if somebody says it's a primary home, I'm like, okay, you don't need me. You have an exclusion. You don't need to pay me. You've got a built-in exclusion on it.
That does it for today's listener question. Hopefully you got some real value out of that. To ask your own commercial and investment real estate question related to 1031 exchanges and or triple net properties or other passive income real estate, please visit 1031navigator.com/ask. Again, that's 1031navigator.com/ask. You can also leave a question by leaving a direct voicemail at the podcast hotline 970-300-1994. Again, ask your question by leaving a voicemail at 970-300-1994. Thanks for listening to the 1031 Exchange Passive Income and Investment Series. Hopefully it's helping you create, build, and protect your wealth. Talk to you soon.
And remember, this show is provided for your informational and educational purposes only. Be sure to check with your accountant, lawyer, and or other tax professionals and advisors before relying on this information. Although the information contained herein is believed to be accurate and reliable, we do not guarantee its accuracy or completeness, and it is provided without warranty. Common sense is the best practice.